Okay, today we're gonna be watching Yakub the Scientist by Stoic Stick. Oh, subscribe to him.
Of the three Abrahamic religions, there have been many offshoots of each, all
This is
claiming to be the
Scientist,
most
this is
divinely inspired
Messiah,
or the most correct. But
I
one in
guess.
particular has cultivated mass internet spectacle, and of
Never
course, I
mind.
am talking about the Nation of Islam, and in particular the story of Yakub the Scientist.
Nation
The
of
religion has been
Islam?
described as racist, misogynistic,
Islam?
anti-science, homophobic, fatphobic, ableist, transphobic, as well as anti-Semitic.
That's a lot of words.
Which is a recipe for a good time in my opinion. So, in today's video, we will be taking a look at the NOI, what it is, who Yakub is, and what the future holds
Yeah,
for the
let's
Yakubites and the
hear.
NOI.
Let's hear the
Now, before
story.
we get into who founded it, let me tell you a bit about the core philosophies so you have a bit of context for what I'm about to say after. The nation believes that God first consciously took the image of a black man and that the black race in its true form is divine.
Alright.
Not only that, but
Black
the
people
NOI
are
also believes that
divine.
there is no afterlife. So already
No
it would be
afterlife?
considered heresy by the three major Abrahamic religions.
And
Now that
how
we've got
is
the
it
core
religion?
philosophies out the way, let's get
Just 'cause
into
there's a
it.
God?
The nation was founded by Wallace Fard Muhammad in Detroit, Michigan in...
You sure? You sure this guy is the one who said that? You sure this guy? In what year? What
Let's
year?
get into it. The nation was founded by Wallace Fard Muhammad in Detroit, Michigan in 1930.
1930? Yeah, you sure? You sure?
Already there may be a slight issue that some of the more perceptive of you might have picked up.
Yeah.
WF Muhammad is not even black. Like, yes, let me start an ethno-supremacist religion based on the principle of a skin color that I am not a part of. They also believe that WF Muhammad is God, but also that God is not immortal and is
Isn't God black? This guy's not black.
constantly replaced by other quote-unquote black men. This is
But
great
you're
and
not
all,
black.
but only 4 years after he founded the NOI, WF Muhammad disappeared into thin air. Even the FBI and CIA lost track of him.
So he just
No body
disappeared.
found or anything.
Yeah.
So, a strange start to their religion, okay, but I'll keep an open mind. The NOI's views of the genesis of the universe is that 76 trillion years ago, God, over the course of 6 million years, took the form of a black man and started creating life. He first created the planets and then created other black men to be his helpers, 24 of them in fact, which were his scientists. All of these scientists take turns being God, and 6,000 years ago
was Muhammad the white guy? Was he one of the scientists then?
our boy
He couldn't have been one of the scientists because he wasn't black.
Yakub's turn. Yakub was born in Mecca, which didn't exist 6,000 years ago, but we'll just skip over that fact.
Yeah, who
Technically,
cares?
in this story, the Earth was a piece of the blown up moon, and that's because of a whole different heap of things that we have to get into, like angels, giant ozone layers, gold mining.
My child, I am speaking to you now.
What?
I have created you, the white race, and as such,
I'm not
you
white,
should
though.
obey your creator. Follow this YouTube channel, for when the time is right, I shall activate you and give you the tools that you will need to rule again.
Alright.
But until then, you must bide our time. The hour is now.
I'll be white right now.
Hey, stay
I'm
with
white
me now. Anyway, Yakub is born, and he's born with an abnormally large head. So much so that
Dang,
other members of the
50%
tribe start
head.
to make fun of him for it, which in turn makes him loathe his people. I mean, he would have been an easy target with a hairline that bad. I don't think I would have been any better than his peers now that I think about it. Continuing. At age 6, whilst playing with magnets, he discovered the law of attraction and repulsion. This discovery led Yakub to devise a plan to create a new race. A race that with the powers of attraction could trick and lie and rule the original black race. He called it trickinology. This insight led to a plan to create a new people. He, quote, saw an unlike human being, made to attract others who could, with the knowledge of tricks and lies, rule the original black man. But before he could act upon his plan, he had to study, which is what he did till the age of 18, by which point he exhausted all the schools and universities of Mecca, learning everything that there is to know. Through his findings, he also discovered that within the black man there were two germs, a black germ and a brown germ. With all his newfound knowledge, he decided it was time to enact his plan and set off with 59,999 of his followers to the island of
Why are they
Patmos, where
white?
he
They're
would
not
begin
meant to
his
be
plan.
white. They're meant to
He would
be
select the
black.
2
There's no
lightest
white
people
people
from his
yet.
following and breed them together to make lighter and lighter children, killing off
Wait,
any
what?
lightest people from his following and breed them together to make lighter and lighter children,
This color
killing off
theory
any dark children that happened to be born.
is eugenics.
Unfortunately, Yakub, through all his efforts, never managed to see the fruit of his labors, dying at the age of 150. But
Dang.
his followers, set in motion, continued the process of creating the first brown person 50 years after Yakub died, and after 600 years
they got
total of eugenics and selective
just
breeding,
brown?
the first white man was born. Because this new white race was born of eugenics and murder, they were naturally evil. And because their birth was a lie to the nature of the black mother, it also made them naturally liars, I guess. So of the newly created white
Makes
race,
sense.
fresh to the world, what did they decide to do? Well, they sailed back to Mecca and basically started killing everyone that they could, causing as much havoc as possible until the Meccan guards were assembled and they were exiled to the caves of Europe. Because of this nature of murder and evilness and the whole getting exiled thing, some proponents of the NOI believe that a small portion of the newly created white race tried to graft themselves back into the black race, but without any guides or instructions, they just regressed into monkeys and gorillas. No, you're not going crazy. They really believe that all gorillas and monkeys are white people.
Okay, so we didn't come from monkeys. Monkeys came from us. Makes sense to me.
So, that being the case, to my white subscribers, do you recognize any of these monkeys? And if you do,
That's not a monkey, that's a lizard, bro.
can you ask them why they won't speak to us? Because I know they can.
We'll talk about that later, bro. Monkeys, I feel like they're far more intelligent than the wedding on.
I know they just don't want to pay tax. Are you guys in on it? You can tell me. You don't want to. Fine. Whatever. I'll find out eventually. Anyway, back to the European caves. The white race then engaged in a whole manner of evil behaviors until, according to the NOI, and I quote, Moses drew them out of the caves, taught them to wear clothes, and tried to civilize them. But eventually gave up and blew up 300 of the most annoying ones with dynamite. End quote. And then they kind of speedrun the whole of white history and say that white people conquered Europe and had their whole history until the beginning of the slave trade, which is where it ties back to the NOI. But before we get into that, let me make a quick note on an alternate telling of Yakub's story by the Nubian nation, another black supremacist group. You know, potato potato. In this telling, humans were created by angels to mine gold to repair the atmosphere after a hydrogen bomb was set off on Earth to kill Satan. I swear I'm not making any of this up. Set off on Earth to kill Satan. Gold to repair the atmosphere. This telling, humans were created by angels to mine gold to repair the atmosphere after a hydrogen bomb was set off on Earth to kill Satan.
Mine gold. Because Satan blew up the earth. I'm having a stroke just saying that, bro. What?
I swear I'm not making any of this up. Humans that were originally created had psychic abilities but lost them over time. Yakub, however, retained these powers by having 2 brains, and it's with the psychic power and extra intellect he created the white race. And the rest is basically the same, except in this one he dies because his second brain explodes. So after W.F. Muhammad goes missing, the original creator of the NOI, Elijah Muhammad takes the leadership role and is pretty influential, eventually teaching and mentoring Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and Louis Farrakhan, who is important and we will get into later. Elijah grew the NOI to around 50,000 members and had a total net worth of around $75 million, which in today's money is close to $500 million.
Nice.
Elijah continued the white people equal the devil idea for most of his life right until his death, at which point the NOI split into 2 groups. One led by his son W.D. Muhammad, who denounced all the heresies of the NOI and returned to traditional Islam, and the other led by Farrakhan, who was basically even crazier than Elijah. He unironically believed that white people are actually the devil. He's quoted as saying this about white people,
Serious?
God say you the real devil.
You know
And
that
you
put in
damn
that voice.
sure are. Ain't another devil nowhere else. Ain't no use you get mad with me, white people. The only hellraiser on earth. I'm not saying that you're responsible, cause you're made devil, but I'm not gonna make a mistake in thinking that you can be made better through love. The NOI under Farrakhan also believes that the
I
subjugation of
believe him,
African
bro.
Americans was part of an ancient white conspiracy, and that enemies of the NOI are also part of this conspiracy. You know what? I think I could learn a thing or two from these guys. From now on, anyone criticizing me or my channel is clearly part of a grander anti-Stoic stick conspiracy, and you're clearly in league with the devil if you disagree with anything
You're
I
clearly
say
the
about
devil if you
anything.
disagree with me.
The
This
NOI
makes
also
sense.
believes that as part of the ancient conspiracy, the government flooded the black community with drugs to undermine them, which
Now that
is
was
actually
cool.
true, as crazy as it sounds. They also believe that the government created AIDS to also undermine the black community, which I'm not 100%
I thought they made AIDS to undermine the gay community, not the black one.
sure is true, but the NOI probably know more about that connection than I do, so I guess I'll just take their word for it. Under Farrakhan, the
Well, that's
NOI
what
is
Trump
also
says of
suing
them.
the ADL for
They're
libel because
homophobic,
they
though.
claim the ADL's branding of Elijah and Louis as anti-Semites has cost them connections, job opportunities, and money. They also made this interesting analogy, shall we say. Let me quote them directly because it may be seen as incendiary and I don't want to be put in front of YouTube's crosshairs any more than I already am. Quote,
YouTube, this is an educational video, just saying that right now.
2,000 years ago in the Roman Empire, the Jews of that day caused the Roman authorities to join with them to bring false charges against Jesus, as he was the last prophet to the Jews. 2,000 years later, some members of the Jewish community, the ADL and others, have met with the White House officials and some members of the United States government to formulate a strategy that would enable them to make laws and policies that would allow them to arrest me or others who are falsely
Okay, yeah, I've seen this before. This is what's it called? A Zionist government or a Zionist occupied government, a Jewish occupied government. Yeah, no, I've seen this before. I've seen this. I think mostly white supremacists. So the white supremacists and black supremacists, they got more in common than we think.
accused as being anti-Semitic. Well, I mean, that certainly does make you think, eh? I mean, it does
I mean,
imply
what's the
that Farrakhan
difference? What's the difference between white supremacists and black supremacists other than the race? Like,
sees
from what I'm saying, not a lot.
himself as a Jesus-like figure, which I'd obviously disagree with, but anyway. Like all religions, there has to be some final event that is yet to come, and the eschatological parts of the NOI are just about what you'd expect given what we've heard already. So, the NOI believe that a massive UFO called the Mother Plane will descend to Earth and all the righteous black people will be beamed up into it to live
Also,
with the
aliens.
scientists and God.
Okay.
The Mother Plane will have baby UFOs with it that will travel to Earth and place bombs beneath the Earth's crust
Bombs?
to completely wipe out the white people and the white order that is currently on Earth. And then for 390 years the Earth will burn, and then cool for another 610 years, which at that point the Mother Plane will return and there will be a black paradise for the NOI and its followers. The NOI describes the current attempts of the US to try and colonize other planets as futile attempts to escape the coming destruction by the Mother Plane, and also describes the SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative by the US, as another attempt to protect them from the Mother Plane under the guise of protection against nuclear threats. They claim that the Mother Plane will only arrive after a deterioration of interracial relations and claim that the coming apocalypse is imminent, with Farrakhan incorrectly predicting that the Gulf War would spark the end. All in all, a pretty interesting religion. I respect
It's
all
very
faiths, so I'm
interesting.
not going to mock it, but there's a lot of unanswered questions, shall we say, regarding their version of events. Anyway, that's all we have time for Yakub and the
Video, okay. So that's gonna be all for today, guys. Early of the day, so I'm a little bit done. That's gonna be it for now, guys. See you guys later. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Bye bye.